we continue to take on this responsibility as the detachment of the women of the ANC. You all once again rekindle in me many memories of the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and memories of the 90s, as well as our current period. Any of us looking at this tapestry of history, and this generation here in this room, will soon remember many of our heroes, young and old, who played their part, and some who paid the supreme sacrifice. I have now crossed over to the second half of the age of 80, second half of the 80s. We are so blessed and grateful for you, Mum. I started my journey in the Congress movement of the ANC as a young girl in the trade union movement in Port Elizabeth, now Tebeja. I traveled that journey in the untarnished and able hands of giants in our liberation struggle. Giants like Govan Mbeki, like Ray Nhlaba, and Vuyisile Mini. Comrade Vuyisile was later hanged with a noose around his neck by apartheid thugs. Later on, I came to live in the then Transvaal, now Johannesburg, Gauteng. I continued my journey and was in the forefront of the struggle for the cause of women, and together with many outstanding women of the Congress movement of the time and of the ANC. Remembering so many of these women in my journey really evokes strong emotions within me. Allow me, comrades, to briefly trace this roll call. In the 1956 march, we marched with Mum Lillian Ngoyi, Mum Helen Joseph, Mum Rahima Musa, and an army of women shouting our slogan. That slogan is still our clarion call today. It is, Watinta Bafazi, Watinti Mbogodo. If you have struck a woman, you have struck a rock. This slogan is representative of our resolve to claim what is ours and for what is ours to remain ours. In the 60s, when all roads of peaceful protests were closed, the ANC decided to embark on armed struggle. Many women then and since joined the ranks of Umkhonto weSizwe. Umkhonto weSizwe being the military wing of the ANC. Women like Me Ruth Mompati, Me Gertrude Shope, Me Yolisa Modise, Valentina Watson, Me Florence Maposho, Mam Jackie Sedibe, Me Sue Rapkin, Marion Spark, Janet Love, Rajesh Lakshmi Pillay, and many, many other women comrades of MK, brave, courageous soldiers of our military wing. In 1961, a group of 25 qualified nurses and midwives were recruited through the efforts of our beloved icon, Oliver Reginald Tambo. Recruited through volunteering from across South Africa to assist the newly independent country, previously Tanganyika, today's Tanzania, which was facing uncertainty and many challenges as the British left that country. So they remain unsung heroines, even today. In the period of the 1970s and 80s, we saw many young women joining the ranks of the ANC and MK, and some of them are no longer with us today. Together with the nurses that we are acknowledging today, we want to dip our revolutionary banners in honor of all the fallen heroines of our movement and of our struggle. There is so much that we can talk about in terms of the role that women played, giving support, participating in the work and the campaigns of the ANC. They made sacrifices and determinedly withstood the enormous ongoing challenges that they faced, as women of this country even today face such challenges. Time does not allow me to give you an in-depth background of all of what women have done and participated in our liberation movement. Today was to briefly, once again, remind us of the history as we gather here today for this special occasion, that we stand on the broad shoulders of great women that we should emulate and women that we should never forget. Women of the caliber and strength of Ray Alexander, Nelly Jibiliza, Mildred Lesia, Nana, also known as Liz Abrams, Chrissy Jasson, Stella Damons, Dolores Telling, Ida Mtwana, Mary Moodley, Amma Naidu, Amina Kachalia, Vesta Smith, Blanche Laguma, Albertina Sisulu, and Mam Winnie Madikizela Mandela. Mam Ida Mtwana, as some of you may remember, was the first president of FEDSO, the Federation of South African Women. She participated in the Defiance Campaign and in the Congress of the People of Kliptown of 1955. That was the genesis of the Freedom Charter, as we all know. Mam Ida was known for her melodious singing voice, and it echoed throughout the plains of Kliptown. She also ended up being part of the treason trial and passed away in 1960, before the end of the treason trial. So this is a little bit of history. These formidable women and many other heroines who stood tall and fought hard in the fight against apartheid. We gather here under enormous, difficult challenges as women, and I dare say, under attack from many, many fronts. Our country is facing huge economic challenges. Unemployment, as we know, is unbearably high. Certainly, it is hard-hitting on us women. We are the providers of safe havens to so many, and it really affects our families. The pervasive poverty is so evident in every walk we take, and that too is biting us as women, since we are the providers of sustenance for our families. The triple oppression of women is now even more pronounced, and when you consider these huge challenges, especially through the current economic climate, we have the predatory gender-based violence battle that we are fighting, which has reached shocking levels. No woman is safe, young and old, no one is escaping this scourge. As we gather here today, please let us consider all of these issues in our own spaces and where we can make a difference. I would personally plead that we move away from generalities to finding practical measures to address these challenges. Gone are the days of the 1950s and before that, despite the enormous contribution that women made, they were not recognized to enter high positions of leadership because of patriarchy. Yes, there's still patriarchy today, but today we're in positions of authority as women to be able to make real and tangible differences to the lives of our women. So let us use that authority to make the lives of our women better. We must continue to have hope that our sincere and united and effective actions as women will defeat the many scourges and battle that we live with. We should also never give up, but persevere and keep making even little efforts, which cumulatively is the key to success. Because these little acts of defiance against the battles in our society also constitute courage, a fundamental strength which speak truth to power, just like the women of the 1956 march. Because of their determination, dignity, and recognizing their own potential, we know it is possible. Just as we women and all women in our country today have achieved much for themselves through their own efforts and by demanding their rights. But government and society as a whole needs to come closer together and cooperate as they have done in other spaces, and coming together specifically to address the women's needs, the needs of women practically. After so many years without an ANC Women's League conference, I express my heartiest congratulations that you made it to gather for your conference. May I salute and congratulate the National Task Team and the new leadership of the ANC Women's League. I wish to also congratulate all provincial PTTs and the branches of the Women's League across the length and breadth of South Africa. You successfully concluded this mammoth task, which was overdue. Well done. So, in concluding my humble delivery, I would like to congratulate all of you and wish you a very successful Women's Month. A giant army of South African women has been awoken. We see it in so many spheres, and most recently, our women proudly flying the flag in the international space of the global sports arena. We express special congratulations to our dear Proteas netball team and to our beloved Banyana soccer heroes. So let us be united and considerate at all times. Let us love one another. Let us always respect and value each other. Enjoy the rest of your Women's Day and the rest of your Women's Month. God bless you, and God bless the women of South Africa. Amandla! Amandla! Malibongwe!
Another round of applause for that beautiful, beautiful message from our mother, Mama Sophia de Bruyn, delivered by her beautiful daughters. Bagolo, ladies and gentlemen, ke batla go le leboga for allowing me to run the first part of our program. But before I leave the podium, ke na le kopo from this side, bongwana ke mola ba arts and culture, ke kopa le nneng le tidimalo tle, ke a le kopa le ska nna ntse le disturb batho ge ba bua tu. Ke a itse le na le tlhompho kgale re bereka le lona, ke a le kopa ne ka boikokobetso tle. So ke batla go le leboga gape, and ke re our poet said to us that the names of women who contributed to the freedom that we enjoy today must be hung up for everybody to acknowledge. Now we got the names of that women who contributed to our freedom. I'm going to hand over now to my co-program director, who also was acknowledged when I opened the program in both her role as the president of the Women's League, but also as a deputy minister. She will be doing further acknowledgements and run the second half of the program. Ke kopa re mo amogeleng ka le go fitlhe.
Thank you, comrades.
Siyabuza awuphendulele mbuzo baphina nabafazi babevalelwe Tele Totina siyabuza awuphendule lo mbuzo Thetha bhotsha siyabuza awuphendule umbuzo Malibongwe igama lamakhosikazi wathinta ibhokoto wathinta umama phambili ngobaba Sophie Brain phambili siphilele mama Sophie Brain siphilele amandla. Thank you very much, my dear program director. Everybody has been acknowledged. Thank you so much, my sister. I really want to acknowledge the women's political parties that are present here. I belong to one of those. I cannot really appreciate and say, hi, sisters, hi. Hi, sisters, hi. Thank you so much. And now, as we are going to move faster with our program, we are going to call one of our own, a tried and tested leader of the ruling party, a cadre of the movement who has been around for quite the longest time. She is part of us. She has led almost all the structures of our liberation movement. She has been deployed in different departments as a head, majority of time as a minister. I guess, President, one day you will call her Miss Fix It. Because whenever there's a problem, in whatever way, she's always brought to that and she resolved all those. I'm going to call upon now the Minister of Women, Youth and Persons with Disability, Umama Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma. Alibongwe! Alibongwe! Kamala Makhosikazi! Wathinta ibhokoto! Wathinta umama! Thank you so much. Over to you, Minister.
Thank you very much to our program director, who is also the Deputy Minister of Women, Youth and Persons with Disability. Of course, the brand new president of the ANC Women's League. Greetings to His Excellency, the President of the Republic, Mr. Cyril Matamela Ramaphosa. Greetings to Umama Sophie Brain, on whose shoulders we stand. Greetings to the Premier of Gauteng. The Honorable Panyaza. Greetings to the MMC. And greetings to the ministers who are here, deputy ministers, members of parliament, members of political parties who are here, and more importantly, all of you who have decided to spend your day here. Wathinta bafazi uzokufa finish. I'm honored and humbled to participate in this commemoration of the fearless, organized, united women who ensured that they came and stormed the citadel of men. I'll just say nobody had done it before. And they came and they said, Wathinta bafazi. This because we don't say a lot today because we have our own president who's going to speak. But I just want to say something about patriarchy. And I want to quote from one of our finest sons of the continent, Thomas Sankara. As Thomas Sankara said, and I quote, Frederick not only traced the evolution of technology, but also the history of the enslavement of women, which was born with the arrival of private property, owing to the transition from one mode of production to another, and from one form of social organization to another. Mankind first knew slavery with the advent of private property. Man became the master of his slave and the land, and also became the owner of the woman. This was the great historic defeat of the female sex. It came about with the upheaval in the division of labor as a result of new modes of production and a revolution in the means of production. In this way, paternal rights replaced maternal rights. And property was now handed down from father to son rather than from the woman to her clan. The patriarchal family and patriarchal society made its appearance. Founded on the sole and personal property of the father, who had become the head of family, within the family, the woman, and within society, the woman was oppressed. In South Africa, that translated into what Umamu Sophie was saying, triple oppression. We got oppressed because we were women, according to our race, because we were black, and class because we were workers. So I just thought today, as we remember those giants who fought this patriarchal system and bequeathed us with a South Africa that was better, we have made strides since democracy, but a lot more still needs to be done. Let me say, even God did not create women as oppressed. There was equality in the Garden of Eden. God created an equal society for us. So we must go back to that equal society. And also South Africa, Mr. President, is not free. O.R. Tambo said no country can boast of being free until its women are free. So we are not free. South Africa is not free. It will only be free when we are free as women. And I just want to touch on GBV and femicide and that sketch. I want to say, as government, President, let's take the district model approach, even on GBV. Let's say in every ward, the councillor must be at the forefront of fighting GBV. Induna, Inkosi, the religious leader in that ward must be at the forefront of fighting GBV. If we can do that, I think we can start to make a dent. And in every ward, we should say zero tolerance to GBV. You are not going to live in this ward if you are going to abuse and kill and harm women. So I think if we take that approach, we can make some inroads. And of course, we also think that I believe that our ancestors look upon us. And I think today they are very happy. They are happy because Banyana Banyana has made history. They are not only the African champions, but they were able to get into the round of 16. And they do that against very difficult challenges. There is no women's soccer league in the country. There must be. They get paid less than their male counterparts. The wage gap in South Africa is still there. Iceland has made it illegal to pay a woman less than a man for work of equal value. Shouldn't we do that as well? Yes. I think we should do that as well. They are also happy because I'm sure they were with us in Cape Town when the Spar netball Proteas were playing there, and they bequeathed themselves very well. And I'm sure the president will say more on that. I won't. Before I conclude, women must have access to justice. There are very serious problems with women accessing justice. I won't go further than that. It's a story for another day, but it must be mentioned. The LGBTQIA+ must stop being killed, discriminated against. They must have their rights like all of us. But women must be in the economy of this country, not just in the formal, not only in the small and medium, but they must also be part of the big corporates in this country. This country won't reach its full potential unless women participate equally in every area of human endeavor. Malibongwe! Malibongwe! It is now my singular honor to call upon our President, His Excellency Cyril Matamela Ramaphosa.
Amandla. Amandla. Forward with the women of South Africa, forward. Amandla. Dumelang. Dimasiari. Abshin. Sanbonani. Molweni. Lochani. Good afternoon to you all. Program Director, Minister Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, Minister Zizi Kodwa, and other ministers who are also here today, as well as our deputy ministers. The Premier of the Gauteng province, kana babisa panya panya kapa babisa Okay. The MMC of the Mayoral Committee of Tshwane, members of Parliament who are here with us today, representatives and leaders of various political parties here present, religious leaders, our traditional leaders who are also here with us, and community leaders also here present, and guests both representing various countries and guests from around the country as well, and more importantly, Mama Sophie de Bruyn. I greet all the women of South Africa on this very special, auspicious day, the 9th of August, Women's Day. Today, as men and as women, we celebrate the beautiful mothers of our nation, our sisters who are also beautiful, our grandmothers who are outstandingly beautiful, and our daughters who are extraordinarily beautiful. Together, we thank the women of South Africa for the role that they have played in the life of our nation. And the role of women in our country has been phenomenal. Today, we celebrate how far we have come in building a non-sexist society where women, and we are striving to ensure that women become freer and attain that moment, Minister Dlamini Zuma, of total freedom, where women, and we are doing this, we're inspiring that women should enjoy equal rights to those of men as guaranteed by our Constitution. As we do this, we recall the suffering that the women of our country have endured for no reason other than that they were women. And of course, they have also suffered under another form of oppression, which is because the majority of them are black or were black during the apartheid days, and also because they came from the working class stock. We remember the courageous struggles waged by women against oppression from those who stood up against colonialism and slavery, to those who risked jail, the hated Dompas or the Pass. We remember those women who took up arms against a violent regime, who organized workers to fight exploitation, and who led political movements as well as civic movements, and who were involved in the drafting also of our new constitution. Today, of all days, we salute Imbokodo, Amakawekazi, the brave pioneers who marched onto the Union buildings here on this day in 1956. There are few moments more compelling in our history than the day when tens of thousands of women gathered in the amphitheater of these Union buildings. I often tell people that whenever we had visits from other countries, when heads of state come here, I always take them to what we've put at the Union buildings to symbolize that march on the Union buildings. Two rocks, one forming the base and one inside the base as a grinding stone. And I always take time to tell them in some detail about the march of 20,000 women on the union buildings. We are still moved by the images of women like Lillian Ngoyi, Rahima Musa, Sophie de Bruyn, and Helen Joseph carrying armfuls of petitions from the women of South Africa. I still remember that picture where Mama de Bruyn was carrying these reams of papers, beautiful as she still looks today. We are honored and privileged to have amongst us today this remarkable woman, Auntie Sophie de Bruyn. We are grateful for your lifetime of service and your continued contribution to the cause of women's emancipation. And all of us, Mama de Bruyn, we say thank you. Thank you for the sacrifices that you and those who were with you made to get us where we are. The women marched here to the union buildings, to the seat of the apartheid power, to demand the end to laws that were intended to deprive them of their rights and dignity as black women. Today, all the women of South Africa, whether they are black, white, Indian, or colored, do have rights that we can celebrate today. We thank them for the bravery of activism and sacrifices of that generation of 1956. Thanks to the struggle over the generations, all South African women have the right to vote today, which women did not have. They have the right to work, a right that was restricted or limited just to menial jobs and domestic work. They have the right to have control over their bodies, the right also to property and to be able to own assets, even though that right is still restricted. On this Women's Day, we pay tribute to Imbokodo from across South Africa for their resilience. Despite the hardships, the deprivation, and the many difficulties, South African women continue to stand strong. They bring up the nation. The children are brought up, all of us were brought up by the women of South Africa. And we must celebrate that. And we must thank the women of our country for making us to be what we are today. We say thank you very much. Indeed, you are the mothers of the nation. The women of our country today run businesses. They earn livings. They learn skills. They raise families. And they lead organizations. And today they also hold public office. Even when opportunities are difficult to come by, South African women do give up, do not give up rather. They do not run away. They do not succumb. They actually stick to the job because, as it is often said, bomme kapo basadi ba tshwara thipa ka bohaleng ba yona. A free translation meaning the women of South Africa hold the life on its sharp end. That's the determination that the women of our country have, and we applaud you for that. We applaud the women of our country for the courage that they have. In every part of this country, women are taking charge of their destinies. They are also inspiring others. and they are also driving change. They are excelling in areas once closed to women, as engineers, as scientists, as managers, as pilots, as farmers, as athletes, as soldiers. And when it comes to soldiers, that's when I admire them the most, because I always see them on Armed Forces Day carrying the very big guns with lipstick on their mouths, and I always wonder, lipstick and a big gun, how do the two connect? But the women of our country have broken into those areas. And today in Durban and Kabeja, the women of our country under Transnet, they are now shepherding 7 vessels into the sea in an all-women crew. The women of the country are forging into areas that we never thought they would be. They are captains, they are pilots, they are on fighter jets, and they are going into various areas. So women are the strength of our nation. They carry our nation, and the women of our country prepare the next generation for a better future. And as a country, we have come a long way in advancing the rights of women. This is largely due to the struggles that the women of our country waged and continue to wage. And on this, I will say to the women of our country, never ever stop and never ever give up. You must continue the pressure to ensure that women do get their due right in this country. That we must continue to do. Because in the end, the women of our country, being the majority population section in our country, have to get what is due to them. And also, there is the question that the women of our country have raised repeatedly, and this is about representation. The women of our country have demanded that they need to be represented in every endeavor that affects the lives of South Africans. And they have clearly said nothing about them without them being involved. And this must become a reality, because without these types of insistence and struggle, we would not be where we are. Since the advent of democracy in 1994, we have put policies and laws in place to empower women, to improve their lives, and to advance gender equality. And we see some of these we see the advancement, we see how women are surging forward. South Africa has one of the highest literacy rates in our region, on the continent. There is parity between girls and boys in primary school enrollment. More female learners sit for matric than males. Female learners are achieving more bachelor passes, and one could actually safely say women are proving to be cleverer than men, and we applaud this. Yes, you only need to go to check the matric results. You will see that the young girls are surging forward. So, Premier, girls and women are cleverer than you and me. So let's accept that. Young women make up the majority of students enrolled in higher education institutions, in our colleges and in our universities. And we should encourage this and make sure that this goes on and advances forward. We want to see an increase, yes, in the representation of women in all respects. In our parliament, yes, we are seeing more and more women being represented. In the judiciary, we are seeing more and more women surging forward. In public service, in the armed forces, as well as in the police, and in many local councils, we are getting closer and closer to gender parity. In the cabinet that I lead, there is parity between men and women, and we have made sure that we will keep that 50-50 balance in the cabinet of the Republic of South Africa. In order to advance the lives of women, there must be policies and laws that focus and advance the women of our country. Our laws and policies must have a bias towards improving the lives of women. And we would like to see, as we draft our laws, to ensure that we use a microscope to see how best the interests and the lives of our women can be improved. And that is a process that the women who sit in my cabinet, that the women who sit in our parliament are also beginning to make sure that it happens. Because in the end, this will deal a blow against patriarchy in places where patriarchy still exists. And so we want to see that happening. In our education system, we do want and intend and are advancing and prioritizing the role and participation of women. And we want young women to make up the majority in the various disciplines that are offered by our institutions of higher learning. We still, however, have a problem with girls dropping out of school, often due to difficulties at home, as a society and as families. And as a nation, we must ensure that our girls stay at school and that they finish school. And I call upon parents to ensure that our girls do stay at schools and do continue to higher levels of education, because our government has made it its task to ensure that there's appropriate funding for the children and the young people of our country at institutions of education. The health of women must be a key priority as well. We should remember it was President Nelson Mandela who decided right at the dawn of our democracy that pregnant women and children under 6 should get free health care. We have advanced even much further since 1994. Women's health outcomes continue to improve as a result of progressive policies around reproductive health, antenatal care, HIV/AIDS, and other communicable diseases. Even though women's health outcomes have improved by a number of indicators, women still carry the largest share of burden of HIV and are more vulnerable to sexually transmitted diseases. Despite our laws, women and girls in many parts of the country still struggle to access reproductive health services. And this has to improve. And our health services need to be more accessible. And this is a priority that our Department of Health will also be focusing attention on. The participation of women in our economy must also be improved. Our economy remains dominated by men, more women are unemployed than men. When you look at our unemployment figures, you find that it is more women who are unemployed than men. And this has become and is a priority for our government. Women are more likely to work part-time. They are more likely to be unskilled and semi-skilled, and they get much lower pay than men. And women are disproportionately responsible for unpaid care work. And it is in this area where we say there must be equal pay for equal work, and women can no longer be paid lower than men for the same work that they do. Minister, we must now advance to, yes, ensuring that there is a law that will ban discriminatory pay between men and women for the same job. We will now pilot, because it is inherently unjust, it's inherently unfair. And we also see this with the underpayment of our women's sports people. And I will deal with that in a little while. We saw that last year, or was it earlier this year? It was last year when the women won the African Cup of Nations. And in the end, we found that they were being paid less than men. And I made a call then that there must be equality of payment between men and women at that level. In fact, right now, I'm sure you will all join me. They should actually be getting more paid because they perform better than our men. So as a result of all this, women are more vulnerable to poverty, to food insecurity, and to hunger. Even today, nearly 3 decades after the dawn of democracy, the face of poverty is still the face of a black woman. And that also must be changed. The emancipation of women, therefore, cannot be achieved without economic empowerment. Women must be breadwinners. They must have equal job opportunities. They must be able to start and own and manage their own businesses. Women need to have financial security and independence to have control over their lives. We are determined to make the most available resources to make a difference in the lives of young women, women with disabilities, rural women, as well as LGBTQI+ women. We are making a difference in the lives of women who are involved in small, medium enterprises, in cooperatives, and also in the informal sector. Among other things, government is supporting women's economic empowerment through public procurement. We have made a commitment as government to allocate at least 40% of public procurement to women-owned businesses. And Minister Dlamini Zuma is looking at a various number of mechanisms to make sure that this does happen, including up to moving to a level where we will have regulations and legal as well as legislative prescripts that will ensure that indeed the women of our country do get empowered. While government departments are working in earnest to award more contracts to women-owned businesses, we need to do much more. As things stand, less than a third of the companies listed on the government central supplier database are women-owned. We want this to change. We have trained more than 6,000 women entrepreneurs to take part in public procurement opportunities. The success of this program has convinced me of the need to train more and more women entrepreneurs in their thousands. When I was given the report that we have only trained 6,000, I said I want tens and tens of thousands of women to be trained in this way. The African Continental Free Trade Area, which is now in implementation mode, will give women-owned businesses in our country and across the African continent access to new markets and opportunities. And this is precisely where we want our women to participate, and we want to strengthen their hand and to have them well prepared and well trained and well resourced to be able to participate in this. We are working with partners on opportunities for women's employment and entrepreneurship in agriculture, in manufacturing, in technology, and also the oceans economy and others. The green economy presents immense potential for women's entrepreneurship and empowerment, especially in renewable energy. In a number of cities and towns, there are many women who are established as green entrepreneurs, working in recycling, in greening, in climate-smart agriculture, and in a number of other avenues. We call on the business community to support women's economic empowerment by partnering with small businesses that are led and owned by women as part of their green economy plans. There is also immense opportunity for young women in public employment initiatives. Since it was established in 2020, the Presidential Employment Stimulus has provided work and livelihood support and opportunities to more than 1.2 million people. And this is something that we need to celebrate, but we also need to increase, because we need to see more and more women participating in a greater pool of the participants that can participate in these types of public employment initiatives. We will ensure that our just transition to low carbon climate resilient society protects the interests of women as it does for all those affected, and that it offers opportunities for women workers and women-owned businesses as well. Government continues to support women-owned businesses to expand and to diversify. We are specifically increasing our support for small-medium enterprises through the National Empowerment Fund, through the small enterprise finance agencies and other mechanisms that we have. And working with the financial services sector, we are looking to close the gender gap so that women can access banking services and credit for their businesses. As a country, we have the right policies and programs in place. Led by the women of our country, we will continue to develop policies that will advance the interests of the women of South Africa. What we need now is to intensify the collective efforts of all social partners, including business, to do more financially to empower women. Businesses in particular must follow government's lead to set aside at least 40% of their spending to the empowerment of women. If businesses could say, and we want to direct them and encourage them to move in that way, that up to 40% of what they procure or what they buy will be directed to women-owned businesses and women-managed businesses, our economy will really start growing more effectively because women will be playing a key role in the economy of our country. Violence perpetrated by men against women and girls continues to be an assault on our common humanity. Women do not feel safe in their homes. They do not feel safe in the streets of our country, and they do not feel safe wherever they walk. And we therefore want to make sure that we bring gender-based violence to an end. This we should do through implementing the National Strategic Plan to combat gender-based violence and femicide, a plan which was conceived by the women of our country, and we want to applaud women organizations for having led the whole process of getting our country to finally adopt a national strategic plan. We have made important progress since the plan was launched. Women did complain that whenever women had to be, when they had been abused by men, when they went to police stations to report their cases of abuse, they were always met by insensitive police officers at police stations who treated their cases with lack of urgency and seriousness. We have listened to this, and government has ensured that this injustice is addressed. Minister Bheki Cele is one of those who listened very, very closely. And as a result, more than 12,000 police members have received training to respond effectively to gender-based violence and to focus on the needs of victims of gender-based violence. More than 1 million DNA collection kits have been delivered to police stations around the country since 2019, and there are now just over 1,000 victim-friendly rooms at police stations countrywide. And I'd like to encourage women's organizations to keep an eye on this. As you visit our police stations, just make sure that indeed those rooms that we say exist indeed do exist, so that every police station in our country must have a room that is well equipped, a room that is designed to cater for the needs of women who come to report abuse cases. Yes, I'm encouraging you to be our inspectors. I'm encouraging you, yes, to go to our police stations and check that this is a reality. Over the last year, we opened a number of Tutuzela care centers for victims of gender-based violence, and we now have a total of 62. This is by no means enough for a country like ours, which has high incidence of gender-based violence. And I've called on a number of key role players, business included, to join us in setting up more and more Tutuzela centers throughout the country, where we should have finally a Tutuzela center nearly in every ward in our country is exactly where we should be going. We are improving access to shelters and associated services for survivors of gender-based violence. In January last year, I signed into law 3 key pieces of legislation, namely the Criminal Law, Sexual Offences and Related Matters, Act, the Criminal and Related Matters Amendment Act, and the Domestic Violence Amendment Act as well. These new laws provide greater protection to survivors of gender-based violence to ensure that perpetrators are no longer able to evade prosecution and to strengthen the measures to prevent gender-based violence. Yes, Premier, as you said, and that Mbogoto must be the whole of society, but our government as well. We have responded to the call for tougher bail conditions for perpetrators. And in fact, we now want to move to a stage where when you touch a woman, and you are arrested, no bail for you. Because there is no justifiable reason for us as men to believe that we own women. As you said, Minister Dlamini Zuma, yes, there was a period where men believed that they owned women. And we must Thank you.